In 1956, Russia's communist leader Nikita Khrushchev said, "We will take America without firing a shot. We don't have to invade the U.S., we'll destroy them from within." America, we're moving rapidly into a transitional phase of irrelevance. Our constitutional rights, speech, faith, bear arms are being destroyed. Our key institutions are being destroyed. Family, education, and economy. Our culture has been redefined in the name of order out of chaos. Oh, by the way, please don't trip during this coming election. Yeah, it's gonna be a big mess. It's already planned. Hint, no change. Because the way it's going down, the way it's gonna happen, it's supposed to happen. Society has become very different than it was in the past. The enemy is destroying the last of true Christianity, moral principles, and everything good that once distinguished this country as a special place among the nations of the world. Yes, we are in the destructive, violent end times, especially for the spiritually discerning believer. It's hard enough to fight an enemy you can see. It's much harder to fight someone you can't see. In his classic statement on spiritual warfare, Paul wrote, "Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in heavenly places." Ephesians 6:12. This verse identifies the enemy, Satan, and his demons. The point I want you to see here is that we make a big mistake if we think people are the real problem. Yeah. People can be bad, no doubt. But as bad as people can be, they are only conduits for this greater battle. Satan has been successful at getting us to fight people rather than fighting that which is causing people to be the way they are. Now all of us have tried to change people who are not doing right. And what we need to understand is that what happens through people, including you and me, has its roots in something much, much bigger. This fact does not excuse the wrongs that people do. They're still responsible. But it helps us to focus on the real enemy. And oh yeah, while we can't control the chaos and craziness around us, we can prevent it from controlling us. John 14:1. Jesus says, "Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me." What Jesus is speaking about is the main part of a man, the center of our being, which is our spirit. As we all can see, we are living in troubling times. The health and economic concerns flooding the news and social media. But the world has always been full of trouble. What's happening now has a way of revealing our trust and faith in God, and also can be a distraction from what's really happening. God has a reason for letting things happen. We may never understand his wisdom, but we have to trust his will. The things I'm trying to get you to see is not to scare you, but to make you aware, a warning, and to get you prepared for Jesus' return. Unfortunately, most of the world, including believers, is not watching for Jesus. They're still asleep when it comes to the second coming. The evidence of America's culture, the world, is collapsing evidence. About 2,000 years ago, Jesus put the righteous leader of his day in check for failure to recognize his coming. He told them, "You know how to look at the sky and predict the weather, but you don't know how to recognize the signs of the time." Matthew 16 verses 1, 2, and 3. But their failure is relevant to our day and time as well. Why? Because Jesus wasn't just addressing the Pharisees and Sadducees when he said this. He had a second audience in mind. Yeah, you and me. That's right. Jesus was talking to our generation. Unfortunately, most of the world, including some believers, is not watching for Jesus. They sleeping. Right now, never before have so many signs of the second coming been present. COVID-19, aka coronavirus, has wreaked havoc on the world. It's far from being over. The pandemic is still an ongoing global emergency, a form of pestilence. It's one of the signs Jesus told his followers to look for. Luke 21:11. Global riots. In late May, the murder of George Floyd at the hands of a police officer ignited nationwide protests in the United States. Throughout the world, we see images of arson, looting, mayhem as a spirit of lawlessness. The Bible says this is what people will be like in the last days. 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 through 5. Global depression. Even with a lot of people returning to work, unemployment claims remain over 20 million. This is the worst since the Great Depression. The Bible says a similar catastrophe will pave the way for the Antichrist. Swarms of locusts. Swarms of billions of locusts attack crops in 2 continents. The UN and Agriculture Organization says this will continue to spread well into late July, destroying crops. Millions of people are starving in all parts of the world, especially where food is already short. Famine is one of the signs Jesus said to look for. Matthew 34:7. Rumors of war. On July 1st, the Israeli government will consider annexing large parts of the West Bank. If Israel does this, Jordan has said it will end its 27-year-old peace treaty with the Jewish state. The Palestinian Authority has said it will end its relationship with Israel. Only time will tell what July brings, but rumors of war will be another sign of his coming. Matthew 24:6. But these are just the latest signs. A lot of the signs Jesus said to look for appeared way before 2020. Generations lived and died without witnessing a single sign of the second coming. But our generation will witness them all. Now come on, people, look around you. As in the days of Noah, people didn't realize what was coming. Noah's generation didn't believe the flood would come, but it came. Our generation doesn't think Jesus will come, but he will. And all the signs say he will come in our generation. The he I'm talking about is Jesus. Jesus who died for us, was buried for us, who rose with all power. So you have to watch for him, believe in him. That's the gospel.